All right, guys, again, thank you for joining. Today's Lunch and Learn, we're going to be talking about item batching, which is a little bit of inventory within ThriVersA. Again, like we've said the last couple, we are working on next year's Lunch and Learn webinars. We also plan on doing some additional webinars in there so you guys can see some other products and other ways to use the system, so stay tuned for that. I will put up a poll, so if anybody has requests for any Lunch and Learns or any webinars you guys would like to see, feel free to send those our way, and then we'll make sure to bake them into the plan for next year. So Jen, I will turn it over to you to start talking about item batching.
Thank you, Christina. As Christina said, today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on item batches in ThriVersA. So the last few webinars, we have really been going through the eSuite Manage module, and today we're going to take a little bit of a turn. Item batching is available in Manage, but there is a separate module called Batch, and there is more options available for batching in there, so we're going to switch over to that for today. So it's the same idea as when we're using eSuite Manage. You're still going to be pointed to that web address. The difference is always going to be up here. So instead of pointed to eSuite/man/index for Manage, it's going to be eSuite/batch/index.html. We're going to log in, use the same login that you're using with SMS Pro, and it's going to open up into the batch. If you do want to go in, if you're used to Manage, if that's what you have saved as favorited, whatever, on your web browser, you can still use that trick that I've shown where you can click on the lock logo and it will give you the option. So right here, you can switch between them. So care, batch, by. So you can go right to the batch module. You don't have to remember that web address. You can just go ahead and pop back in to batch. But so just kind of giving a quick run through, this is just taking everything that you would need to build item batches and putting it in one place. It's a little bit easier. And it also offers some more flexibility with the batching. So over here on the left-hand side, we have our item maintenance. So they ported over all the item maintenance. As you're doing batches, that's something that does come up, that you'll find an item that you need to change. Oh, the price was wrong. Oh, you just find something that was in incorrectly. So this way you don't have to be switching around. You have access to the item maintenance. Labels, very commonly from batches, if you're doing a future sale or a future TPR batch, you're going to want to print the labels ahead of time, so they brought that over here so you can still make those labels by batch. Obviously batches, this is going to be where we're going to spend most of our time today. I'll come back to that because there's a lot of options in here, but this will be where you build your item batches. Imports, this is if you are getting very comfortable with ThriVersA, getting used to using all of the options available for batches, and you want to kind of step it up. This is a way you can import in files. There is a copy-paste function I'm going to show you to make batches, but if you wanted to import in like an entire file for new items, something like that, this would be where you could go. This is pretty high level, so that's not going to be the focus of this webinar, but just so you can see that this is an option that you can do a create batch with copy-paste on an entire batch instead of just bringing in items. That's an option. And then down here we have dimensions. This is all your reporting, so maybe you want to check your sales on items that you're going to put on sale or TPR. Auxiliaries is all your item auxiliaries, so your price levels if you need to make any of those adjustments. Again, tied to the item maintenance, you may find issues with when making batches. And then down here under the tool drop down, this is, you need to be able to deploy the batches, so they brought this over, so we have our deploy, also tasks, and report search and global store, global date if you need to change those. They're just always under tools. Before I jump completely into the batches, like I said, they did make this separate module for batches. This does not mean you have to come in here and use this. If you are just going to be creating a batch and you don't need to have all these extras, they just tried to make it all in one and then, like I said, add some functionality. The batches that I'm going to go through is available in Manage. It's available in Cell. I'm just going to switch over right here. I'm just going to click on there and switch over to Manage really quickly so you can see. So you can see, like I said, it logs you right in. So if you go under the item drop down in a different module, you'll see batches right here. And this is going to be everything that we're going to go over in the batches right here. You can see it's the same exact screen. So this is just kind of giving it all together in a easier format, we'll say, to group everything together. And like I said, and adding some additional functionality with the imports and things like that. So now that we're in the batches, let's go ahead and go through how to create one. So first off, if you've been watching a few of these, kind of the same layout with when I go into batches. So up here, if I'm looking to find an older batch or an active batch, I should say, batches is a search. So if I want to go search for a batch, I can click on batch and it will search for a batch. So I can search by status, by batch type, stuff like stale, TPR. I use those a lot. Those seem to be the most common batches we get, but cost, anything like that. If you know the batch description, if you know the batch date range, you can search for an existing batch. All will just show you all the active batches in the system right now. If you don't have any searches, just click on all. It'll give you a list of all the batches that you currently have in the system. I have 2 batches right now. New, we're going to come back to this, but this is one spot where you can create a new batch. So if you are familiar with the batch maintenance in SMS Pro that we currently have, this should look pretty familiar. So if I click on new, it gives me all the different types of batches. So future price, sale, TPR, in-store redeem, price general, future cost, all the cost ones, allowance, rebate, discount, cost break, bill back, cost general, and then if you need to make main item batches, POS batches, open batches, or delete batches. The algorithm behind the scenes when you're creating a batch has not changed. So if you are creating a sale batch, that's all you can do. You will create a sale batch for a group of items, and you can put a sale price in there. You can't go and create a sale batch and add sale prices and then say, oh, that POS description is wrong. I can fix that in the batch. It won't let you. It is specific to whatever batch type that you're choosing. There is the open batch down here. That's what that allows you to touch any table, but everything else is a very specific batch type. It helps keep it easier, more streamlined when you're creating the batches. As, like I said, most of them you're doing it grouped together. You're creating a cost batch you want to take effect in the future, or a sale batch, TPR batch, all of that. It just makes it easier. There's also a new item batch. If you're creating a new item, there is multiple tables that are involved when you're creating a new item. You have to have a POS table, a main table, and a price table. So if you need to create a new item, that is now a separate button to make it a little bit more streamlined. You need to search up some item information. You can use the items right here, so you can have both of them open, but you do have a quick access button, we'll say, to look at items if you need to check some items before you put them in a batch. Then down here, it kind of breaks it down for you. So if you look up here, you have new, and I can create future price, sale, TPR, etc. These are all price batches. They all tie to the price table. And then right here, these future cost allowance all the way down to cost general, these are cost batches. And then main item, POS, open and delete batch. So if you don't want to go through that list, they have some, I would say, quick buttons, a little bit quicker buttons to be able to create the batch and to search for batches. So use cost as an example. So these will all work kind of the same way. But so go into cost batch, so I can now search for a batch, an existing batch. Same idea as what we were looking at before. I can search by batch number, description, a code that's in the batch, or description that's in the batch. That's the batch description. This is the item description. Vendor ID, vendor code format. There's more criteria as well, and this will all stack if you're searching for a specific batch. So you can look by department, family code, report code, anything like that. You can also create a new batch from here. So if I come up here, this little plus button, this will allow me to create a batch, and since I went into cost, it's only giving me the cost options. So just kind of streamlines it, the searching, and then adding the proper batch type in there. One gotcha I definitely want to show, because I do get this question a lot, is when you're doing this, when you're doing a search or you're going into an existing batch, there is a check mark down here that says only items in batch. If you are just starting to work on a batch, you don't have any items in the batch, you might want to make sure that's unchecked. If you do want to see only the items in a batch, you want to make sure that this is checked. So this check mark I've had people go into a batch, they didn't check mark this, only items in batch, and they'll get all the items in the system, and they're, how did all these items get in the batch? And they aren't really, they just didn't check the box. And I've had people creating a brand new batch, try to go into it and open it up, and they have this check, and then they're like, I can't add any items in the batch. So it's a tricky check mark. Make sure that you have it checked appropriately. So we'll go back to our search. So that is the price batch, cost batch, main item batch. They did separate out a coupon link batch. It's the same idea, so that way, what you were doing before in SMS Pro, where it was an open batch to create coupons, so now they've just separated it out to make it a little clearer and easier that it's a coupon batch. And a delete batch, this has always been an option that's available, but it's just a little bit easier. I do like the idea that there's a button here to create a delete batch. It just makes it a lot easier to go ahead and create one and find one. Down here, the labels by batch, like I said before, I went over this, and at the end, one of the batches we create, we'll just go ahead and use this really quick, but if you need to create a label by batch, they have brought that in here to make it very easy for you, so that way you can pre-print your labels if you have a sale, TPR, or in-store, or future price going on, so that way sale starts on Sunday, everybody comes in on Sunday and they're frantically trying to make new labels for the new prices. You can pre-print them so that way they can just put them on the shelf. And then batch history, you can go ahead and look at old batches. A lot of these is focused on new batches. This is where you can go ahead and search up batch history on items and look at old batches. Deploy batch, when you're done with the batch and you want to deploy it down, you can go ahead and click here. So some of these, like you saw item maintenance is here under tools. I showed you the deploy batch. So they did bring it all in here to simplify it. Labels as well. It's up to you how you want to use them. Functionality, they'll still be the same. I did skip over 2 batches because I wanted to go into them a little bit more. So generate and adjust. If you want to create a batch and generate it based off of your criteria, that is an option. So if I go into generate, you can look for a batch, of course, first, but you can also create a new batch, and you can have it generate based off of a margin, perhaps, as it's showing right here. So you can say, I want to have a 10% from retail, or package price, I want to have everything in a future price batch go up. Anything like that, you can come in here and define what your percentage is on your margin that you want to maintain. And then you can go through and add your items. You can pull it from the item. There is a field on each item. You can define what you want the percentage to be for margins, or you can set your new margins. So if you're wanting to increase your margins and create a future sale price or future regular price to have it go up or down based on that margin, this would be where you can go. It would generate that for you. And then adjust, same thing. You can come in here and do a price adjustment batch. And again, you can do an adjustment based on a certain percentage, package price, limited price, or retail price only, and you can really define that. Again, like I said, with the margins, if you're looking at your item maintenance, if you're looking at all of your sales and you're saying maybe your margin's too high or too low, this is just an easy way that you can go in there and at least create a batch, and then you can go through the items and see if you do want to make all these price changes. So let's just create a batch. So I'm going to I always like to use sales and TPRs. They always seem to be the most common ones. So I'm going to go into the price batch. We'll go through this way. And up here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on add a batch, and I'm going to create a sale batch. So it's going to pop right up and say batch header. So we need to just give it a description. So we'll just say it's a sales batch, and it's starting 11/23 to 11/29. It will automatically fill in my batch ID, my target. If I was in a multi-store environment, this would be a configurable, so I could make the batch for store 1, store 2. I'm in a single store environment, so it's predefined as PAL, and I can't change this. It won't let me. It's grayed out. The source is local. That's predefined, as I am creating the batch here locally. I can change the status, the state, to wait or close, so that way if I'm just creating this batch and I don't want it to automatically apply or accidentally apply, I can put it on wait, or I can just put it on close, so that way I don't have to worry about it. Then my start and end dates, automatically it's always going to go to the next week. So my week runs from Sunday to Saturday, so the next Sunday is 11/23, and it's going to end on the next Saturday on 11/29 at midnight. That's perfect. That's when I want to have the sale. And then down here, again, you don't have to touch these too much. You just really have to put in the description, or I recommend putting in a description so that way you have that in there so you know what this batch is. You'll have the type. So like I said before, the type is very defined. If I'm creating a future sale batch, then that is what this will allow me to touch. This is kind of the last step where you can change this. You can change, like, because I went into price, it's only going to give me the other ones. Maybe I meant to say TPR, maybe I meant to do an in-store batch, whatever the case may be, you can change it here. This to me is a big improvement over how this used to be. Looking at the batches, it would put the macro that it used in there, and it was a little hard to read what the batch type was. So now it's very clearly defined as sale, PPR, in-store cost, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to go, and then action is add replace, and then if you want to have a default label template, if you don't want to decide, you can go ahead and pick a default label template here. Once I have everything here, I can go ahead and click on save, and now it's going to bring me back over here so I can add in items. So I need to add in items to my batch. So now I can search by any of these that you see up here, any code. So I could type in any UPC code, descriptor, vendor ID, subdepartment category. These will stack. So if I want to have a certain subset of items in a subdepartment and a category, but the category can overlap other subdepartments. So I have, we'll say like subdepartment 30. I have items in my subdepartment 30. And I also have them a category of fruit cups, and this can have items in both subdepartment 30 and subdepartment 31, but I only want my sale to have the ones that are in 30 and in the fruit cup category. Then you can go ahead and set that. It will stack. There is a little bit more criteria, so you can also look by specific item code, description, price level, department, family, report code, classification code, vendor code, or like code. So those are still options as well, and they will stack as well. I'm just going to go ahead and we'll just go ahead and pick we'll stick with cookies. I'm going to make sure that's not checked because I don't want to see if I don't want to only see items in my batch because I don't have any items in my batch yet. So we're going to go ahead and click execute. And it could have a few items in this subdepartment, so it could take a few minutes. So pulling me up into the grid format. So from here, I can go ahead and start adding these items into my batch. So this is just like all the other screens that we've been looking at in ThriVersA. You can edit, you can move the fields. That's all still an option. The default layout is pretty nice on this. So I have my UPC code, my main item information, then here's my future sale. Now, if you look at this, like I said, when you're going into a sale batch, you only can edit sales. So these little triangles in the corner, I can only edit these fields. The only thing I can really edit in the entire grid. It'll give me over here the regular price, and if I go over, it will also show me the active price. So if you're wanting to say, I don't need some of this, I can come into columns, I can go into price. I don't really need to see the active price. I don't really need to see the target. It's a single store environment. They're all PAL. Maybe I don't want to see the variance or the margin, and you can come in here and you can add or remove those in both the batch and in the price. It's up to you. Once you come up with a nice layout, if you're wanting to save this, you can use the little gear icon and you can save the layout. You can make it default or give it a name. I know I've gone over that a few times, but that option is here as well. So there's a few different ways that you can go about adding items into the batch from here. So you can go ahead and double click and you can add in the sale price. So this item is $2.99, so I'm going to put it on sale for $2. So I'm using the tab key to navigate between the only fields that I can go through, so I can just go through really quickly and add in those prices. If you notice, it is, well, we don't want to go higher when we're going on sale. As I'm going through, it's highlighting them in red. I'm just going through very quickly, so that way I can use the tab key to just go through and just quickly go into each line and just put in the prices. If you want to, you can hit enter after each, or you can come up here and click the save. It will go through that little loading right there, and it will go ahead and add them and stop circulating it. Question that I get sometimes about this is, how do I know what the date range is? It's not showing me that. I can't put that in there. Well, you set that in the header. So you don't need to do that on each of these. If you'd like to see them, you can add them. So that would be one of the columns. So you can come up under batch, and right here we have price, quantity. So we want to see the start and end date. So just added those in there, and you can see they pulled them right from the batch header. If you are doing like the quick way that I was doing before, so I'm just going to add another few prices. So you see I'm highlighting them, and they're highlighted in red again. They won't populate those dates until you hit enter or until you hit that check mark, and then it will go ahead and put them in there. If this is not really working for you for whatever reason, you don't like Excel, this is very Excel formatted based, that's perfectly fine. You can still use the method with the tables. So if you come down into edit and then price batch, you can pull up the appropriate table. So if I try to pull up a different table from here, like I said, this is a sales batch. So will let me pull up my sales batch, right? No problem. But if I try to pull up a different window, so if I wanted to pull up the TPR, it's going to kind of give me the select a batch for the future TPR because this is not a TPR batch. So it won't let you open a window that you can't use with this batch type. You'll have to force it to a different batch to do that. But so you can open up the future sale. Just going to scooch this over right here. So I can, instead of going through the grid, I can just come through and add it in the table. So if I'm doing it with a table format, you can see these ones, the table is populated because I already added the price in. But this one I have not, so you would just hit plus, and then you would type in the appropriate information. It does automatically bring the retail price in, but you can go ahead and then you can go ahead and change the price. You want to see the retail price while you're doing this, you can do that in a few ways. You can go ahead and drag it over, and that way it's the first column, so that way if you're kind of squishing the column over like I am, just that way I can have it up on the screen. You can also click on this little file box. It's the best way I've come up to describe this, and this will bring up the regular price table. So you can have the tables and then just be using this to navigate through the UPCs. Perfectly fine. Like a lot of people do still like the table format. That way you can see all the different fields. So these are just some options that you have. So this is one way to make a batch. So I'm going to go ahead and show you another method. I'm going to go all the way back to start. I'm going to close these out. That's okay. I'm not really putting items on sale. So I'm going to go back to my start wizard, and we're going to go ahead and make a TPR batch. So we can do it from right here. So I can go into new and I can go into TPR, and I'm going to do the same thing. So this is my TPR batch, and 11/23 to 11/29. Again, that's my week start. So I don't need to change that. All of the options are the same that I just went through with the start, the end date, the state, the type, everything is the same, just obviously now we're in a TPR batch. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pin this. And when I pin this, I'm going to go ahead and save, because that way I just find that a little bit easier to keep it up, so that way I can quickly click on this open list. You can just click on the item general list. There's always multiple methods to add in items. But for me personally, I like to pin the batch header, so that way I can just keep this here and I can click on the open list. Everybody has their methods. So now I need to add items into my batch. I showed you how you can bring up a subdepartment category, all of that. There is another way that you can bring items in the batch. So if I come down to my menu button, there is a copy and paste items. So that way, if you have a list of items with TPR prices, you can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use that method. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste items. And I do have a list of some items that I've right here in an Excel sheet that I want to put on TPR. So maybe my vendor provided this to me. Maybe one of my department managers provided this to me and they didn't want to go through and make a batch, or they don't know how to. So this way I can easily make a batch for them. So all I need to do, it's best if it has a header. So I do have a header, and you can take the information, you can copy it and paste it in. There is additional information in here that I do not need. That's fine. I need the UPC code, I need the TPR price, and I need the TPR quantity. That's really the essential fields I need. If you have more, it's fine. We just ignore them when we copy and paste them in. So you can do your preferred method, we'll say, to copy. So you can right-click and copy, you can Control-C and copy, whatever you want to do. And then we're going to go back to ThriVersA. And where it says paste here, literally where it says the words paste here, you can see this is a box. Not down here in the big open area, not up here, but right where this box is, this is where you want to click on, and you have to do Control-V. It will not work if you right-click and paste. You must do Control-V. And it will bring everything in here. And this is why I say having the headers is best, because a few reasons why is the first item may not map in properly if it's the very first item up there. And number two, if you're creating a template, which I'll show you how to do, if you're going to be using the same exact Excel format over and over again, it will save that, and it will save it off the words that are in here. So now that I have the data pasted in here, now I have to tell it what to do. So my main code, I can right click and I have to say what field this associates to. You're under no obligation to know all the field numbers in SMS and in ThriVersA. That's a lot of field numbers. So what it does is when I go to associate the field, it has the field number, like the UPC code is F01, but it says UPC code. It makes it easier for you. So this is my UPC code. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that is now this column is mapped to UPC code. And then I don't need the description. It's a TPR batch. We can't even do it. I don't need the price. I need the TPR price. So I can come over here, click on this, do the associated field, and then up here's my TPR price. The other thing that they do that makes it nice is that the batch type that you're in should be on top. So since I'm in a TPR batch, it's going to give me all the TPR options, and the essential fields are at the top. So UPC code, TPR price, TPR quantity, those are the essential fields for my TPR. If I was in a sales batch, it would be giving me the sales field. So at the top. So I can go ahead and associate my TPR price, and then I'll go ahead and associate my TPR quantity. After I do this, I can go ahead and click import, which I'm going to do in just a second. But if I'm going to be reusing this, if this is a spreadsheet I'm going to be getting frequently from this vendor, perhaps, that they want to put items on sale, I can go ahead and save this. Up here, you can do actions, and you can save this template. You just want to go ahead and give it a name. See how it highlights that in red? So this would be like my vendor. I can't think of a vendor off the top of my head. My vendor trip. This is the template, and I can go ahead and I can save this so that way the next time I can copy and paste, and I can just pull this template up and it will pull up the mapping. The one gotcha with this is it is very specific to the word. So right here, the main space code, that knows it's F01. So it has to be very specifically the same exact format every time on the spreadsheet to bring it in on the headers. And then I go ahead and click on import. And now I'm in my TPR batch, and everything just came in. So here's all the items that I copied and pasted in. Here's the new TPR price and the new TPR quantity. You can, again, do everything that I just showed you with the columns. You can add, subtract columns, everything like that. From here, to deploy the batches down, you can do it in a few ways. You can check on everything. You can go under actions, and you can execute the batch from here. You can also generate a label from here. So if I wanted to pre-print these labels out before the sale starts to take effect, I can generate the label. It'll bring up that batch that I'm in. I pick my label format that I want to use. Let's say new label. I want all my price levels. I want all the items except for the ones with not for sale on. And I go ahead and I can execute this, and it will create a label batch that I can go print. I can also execute the batch from here, so I can go ahead and immediately execute this batch. Now, SMS is a date-driven system. ThriVersA is a date-driven system. So because the date of the sale does not take effect until Sunday the 23rd, this will just apply to the price table, but it will not be active still until the 23rd. So it won't make this batch, the sale, become active immediately. It will just apply it to the price table now, and then that way it's ready to go when the date passes. If you don't want to do it from here, you can leave the batch, and there's scheduled tasks that will automatically apply it. You can just let that run, or you can go back and you can come down here. You can click on deploy batch from here, select your batch, and go ahead and deploy it. You can also create the labels from here. That's an option right here as well. You can select your sales batch and create that sales batch label. So like we didn't do that before, so you still have the option to go in there and create that sales batch label from here. So that was everything that I wanted to go over. Did we have any questions come in, Christina?
We do. We have two. So this one came in a little early, so you may have discussed it afterwards. But they asked, how do batches work if you have lock hosting, where items and sales are created at the host?
So they actually are the same exact way that I just kind of went over, but when you're going in to create the batch at the host, so if I was going to go create a TPR batch at the host, this target right here would become very important, because in a host environment, you would be able to choose store 1, store 2, store 3, or if you group together your stores, we would work with you on the targets at the host. So you would have like a New York target and a New Jersey target maybe. So that way you would just have New York target in here, and it will have all the New York stores, and New Jersey target and all the New Jersey stores. And so you can create the batches separately for each area. Or if you want to create them for all stores, you would just create it under PAL, and then you would deploy it down to all the stores. So that's where this really comes into play. This would be a editable field in a multi-store environment, so you can pick and choose which stores and or areas you want to send this batch to and have it be active at.
Perfect. And then the next question, when you enter prices in the batch, can you see the margins? They notice that there's a margin column that was not populating.
If I have a cost record attached, yes. So that will populate if I have a cost record attached to it. I don't have a lot. Let's see. I don't know if I have. All the items. Oh, why did I want to delete batch? Sorry. Yeah, I don't know if I have the variance will show you the variance between the regular price and the sale price. So you have the variance. The margin will populate if I have a cost table attached to it. I don't think any of the items that I happen to use had a cost, but it will populate if they did. It would also populate over here for the item. The short answer is yes. I just don't have cost tables in all these items. I picked a bad set of items. Sorry about that.
All good. We had a couple other questions come in. So the next one is, in the grid, is there a way to generate sales pricing based on percentage of the regular price without having to type each item's sale price?
No, not in the grid. If you're going to want to do that, that would be if we go back into these generate and the adjust ones, you could use these tools to make those. This would be off of the price generate batches off the cost, and then the adjust would be if you wanted to adjust it off the regular price. So you would have to predefine, I want to do 10% off of the retail price, or 5% off the retail price. Within the grid, it's typing it in, because those are not editable fields with the percentage or the variance percentage. It's not an editable field. It's just a calculated field. So that would be, you put it in here. So I want to do a 10% as the retail price is the base, and I want to do it off of that.
Okay. And then the next one, am I able to create a labels batch? I only want to print labels, not do any changes to items.
Yes, that would be where I would use the closed batch when you're doing a closed batch. Oh, I closed the batch screen. Sorry about that. So if I was going to create, you can just create a new, it would just be like a placeholder batch is what you're looking for. So you would just go ahead and select like a new main item or POS information. And you can just add the items in here and then use this as a base for, sorry, I didn't mean to hit no. So you would just have this as a closed or a wait batch, so that way it's not an active batch that you might apply. And you could use this batch as kind of your base. If you have a handheld, however, you can just go through and scan items and add them to a label. That might be easier than creating a batch and then doing a label off the batch. If that makes, like, that would be a little bit easier than creating a batch and then go and generating a label off of that batch. You could just go ahead and add in as you're scanning them, you just go ahead and hit the label and it will add them to a label batch. Then you can go back to the back and print them.
Okay. Couple more came in. So when you create a batch on host, does it deploy to the stores as soon as the batch is successfully created? and reside on the POS controller until the time for the batch to apply, or does it stay at the host until the time to apply the batch?
Depends on your setup. So we could have it work either way, that you could deploy the batch and it will sit there at the store server until they're ready to be applied and the task will run, or you could have it sit at the batch and have it deploy down to the server, apply at the server on the day of. It's all setting based. You can configure the host to do either or. Like I said, the good thing is that regardless of where the batch is sitting, it is all date driven. So if you did deploy it down early, it will not kick into effect early. So it can reside at the server. It's up to you how you would like to do that. Because we have stores chains that run either way, that they have the host have it sit at the host level and they deploy it down when the sale becomes active. That way they can still make changes at the host. They can still go in there and edit it up to the day before. We also have chains that let it go down to the stores early, and that way the stores can go in there and go through them if you want to let them go through them, and they can make any changes or get rid of some of the items if they don't want to have them in their sale, or add items to it if they have additional items. Completely up to you and how, but we can configure the system to do it either way.
Okay. Next one, where would we go to print the signs ahead of the sales price starting?
So if we go into tools, we go into labels, it's under tools somewhere. We go into tools, we want to go into print label. You can then pick the label type that you create the batch off of, so like the new label, execute, and it will show up here. I didn't actually click the execute, and they would be able to come in here and print the label. So let me just do that really quick. I didn't actually create the label batch before, I just showed how to do it. So I would go ahead and pick my TPR batch, and I want to have it go to this label format. We'll just say new label, one each, all that. Execute. It will automatically bring me in here to execute it to the print label list with all of the labels if I want to, and then you can print the labels, or you can go back here, labels, pick your label format. Why are you not? That one. Should be generating it right there. No, hold on a second. Let me just make sure my service is not hung up here. Sometimes the files don't. Go through. Give me a second. Let me just make sure that it's processing. Yeah, they're just hanging there. Hold on just a second. Sorry. I have files just chilling in my inbox.
All good.
I'll just have to show you. I'm sorry about that. They're just stuck in there, so I don't want to hold up everybody. But you would just be, when you're generating it, it would go in here and it would come up on the list. Or you would be able to go here into the labels, pick the label format that you put it under, execute, and it will show up on the list, and you do action and print the labels from here. Sorry about that. It's like files just stuck that aren't processing through in my inbox, and I'll have to take a look at what's going on with my lab. But that would be where you would go.
Okay. Any other questions that you guys want to send in? I'll give it a second. All right. I feel like this has been a really, really great session. You guys have asked some really good questions, and I feel like it really showcases, you know, the system is not one size fits all, right? We can help customize any of these items to do exactly what you guys want or need the system to do. So this is great. Thank you, Jen, for all of those demos and answering the questions. So the next webinar, which will be the last of this year, is going to be on December 18th, and we're going to be going over integrations. Thank you. I do see a couple people have filled out the poll, so I will take a look at those afterwards. And if anybody does have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we will be glad to answer them offline. Everybody have a good day, and we will talk to you all next month.